in Florida, and even the counties like Duval County and St. Johns County, which is up St. Augustine and Jacksonville, their beach is completely closed to foot traffic of any kind, but they are allowed to access the surf by boat legally and not get hassled. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, now you're involved with like a petition to open the beaches to surf, correct? Can you talk a little bit about your involvement there?
Sure. So the afternoon that order went into effect, it of course, obviously, it was very personal to me. Just I've lived my whole life at the beach. Like that's everything I do. It's my exercise and it's my hobby and it's the place I'm very fortunate. I live a block from the beach. I walk down almost every evening. Every evening that I'm not on shift at the fire department, I walk down with my wife and walk on the beach after dinner. And so it just I wasn't really sure what I was going to do when that order came down, and it seemed, if I'm being honest, it seemed like a massive overreaction to what we were currently dealing with in our county. And I took a lot of heat for that stance online for sure. But at the same time, I felt like there was ways, and one of the things I did is that following morning, I opened up my computer and I started emailing with my county council members, specifically the county chair and also the county council woman that directly represents my beach. And they were great. They emailed me back, and we had great civilized discourse on what the options were, what the options that were presented to them, and what their reasons were for doing what they did. And in the course of sending those emails, a buddy of mine, Chad Doyle, that runs the Halifax Surf Club here in Volusia County, he sent me that petition, which was written by a guy up in Jacksonville named Greg Matson, who's a longtime surfer as well. And I read through it, and it just felt like it was pretty reasonable and commonsensical. And so I'm fortunate with, we have a good following with the Florida Surf Film Festival. And so I put it out there, through social media channels to just say, hey, like, this is how our democratic government works. They make a decision and we respond civilly, and this is the way you do it. And so I had a great response. I'd say probably 80 or 90% of the response was very supportive and positive. 10%, or I'll say 5% was negative and 5% was downright hateful. but it is the internet. What do you expect?
Yeah. Well, so how can, the question I have is, like, how can surfers surf responsibly? Like, what would you consider being responsible and going into the water?
So the thing, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's really, that's the question. I'm curious, like, what you guys laid out.
The thing that we asked for, and the thing that because the two things I did was I put the petition up through our social media channels and then my own personal social media channels. And then I also put out a post saying, hey, here's the emails for your county council representatives for your specific beach. And here's what I'm recommending. And it basically mirrored what Brevard County had already implemented, which was, one county to the south of us. And I had talked a little bit with, via email, I talked with CJ Hobgood about the success they were having with it down there, and just getting his input and things like that. But basically, what they had done was they had closed everything. So they had closed all the beach ramps. So the beach was closed to vehicular traffic. And then they had closed all of the off-beach parking. I don't know if you're familiar, but like down here we've got, we've got multiple like public parking lots where you can just park, and then there's a little walkover and you walk over to the beach. And then specifically at the inlet down where I live, I'm on the Ponce inlet side. you've got a county park on either side of the inlet. You've got a county park that's right at the end that literally borders the inlet, and you go in and there's parking for, gosh, probably 250 cars.
Yeah.
And for a few days, they had been leaving that, even after they closed the beach to vehicular traffic, they were leaving those county parks open, so you were still ending up with way too many people in one place. They had closed that as a result of the order. And so our recommendation was, hey, leave the beach closed to vehicular access, leave all the off-beach parking closed, leave the county park closed at the end, but for especially the members of the community that live on the beach side, which is tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
If they can ride their bike or skateboard or walk over at the end of their street to a beach access, walk over and go for a bike ride or go for a walk or a run, a swim or a surf, and maintain social distancing guidelines while doing that, that seems like it should be okay. And that was the impetus that we laid out for them, was just like, I understand that you have to restrict the access to the beach for some people, but I don't necessarily think it has to be restricted for everybody, because what was happening is, we've got this down where we are, the beach side is super narrow. It's 2 or 3 blocks wide between the intercoastal waterway and the ocean. And so everybody that couldn't get on the beach to exercise, whether it's running, walking, bike riding, whatever, they were all jammed up into the sidewalks in my neighborhood. And so you'd go out on the sidewalk and it was chaos. Like there was, way more people than normally would be on a 3-foot wide sidewalk instead of a 300-foot wide beach.
Jeez. So I guess, like, do you think there would, if that's allowed, do you think then, one, should there be authorities on the beach to help maintain that people keep social distancing?
Sure, and we have that authority already in place. The Volusia County Beach Patrol, they're part of the Volusia County Lifeguard Association, so they're triple trained. They're lifeguards, they're EMTs, and they're law enforcement officers.
Damn.
And so they're actually one of the finest lifeguard associations in the United States, if not the world. They have a really successful competitive team that competes regularly with like LA County and San Diego County, and those guys are studs, and they're already in place on the beach. And so the method for implementation was already there. It didn't require any additional funding or manpower or anything. In fact, it kind of utilized the manpower that was already there, because if nobody's allowed on the beach, then my thought was, then you're going to send all those guys home, and then they're not getting a paycheck. So it seemed like it made sense.
Could their skill set be used elsewhere potentially, I guess?
I mean, theoretically it could, but it's not.
It's not that
at this point. At this point, we don't have a need for it. We don't have such lawlessness that we're calling all law enforcement hands on deck, so to speak, to patrol areas. I don't even think like
or EMT, I guess, like go do rescues, because it could, I guess, like, just because what we're seeing here in New York is everything's become so stretched thin, the resources. And I guess, like, I was just thinking, like, oh, what else could they be doing potentially if the beaches were closed for a reason? That's all. Sorry, I went on a little tangent there.
No worries. And I mean, honestly, what's interesting from my perspective as a firefighter EMT that does patient transport, we do our own patient transport here in the fire service. Yeah. And our call volume has actually declined significantally in the past 3 to 4 weeks. And it's, in my opinion, it's because people don't want to go to the hospital. Because for any other reason, they don't want to go to the hospital. And so we've actually had some significant calls where you'd think the person would want to be going to the hospital, and they were like, do I have to go? Because I really don't want to go. Do I have to go? And you're like, this, you do have to go, sir or ma'am, But that speaks volumes to how, like, broad-reaching this event is that people, for the first time in my lifetime, are like, I don't really want to go to the hospital.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for multiple reasons. One, you don't want to be around it just in case,
Sure.
and two, you don't want to waste resources, and
Sure.
stretch it thin. I guess like my thing is like I always worry. Like I hate to say this, but I just don't trust people to adhere to the rules always. That's always my fear, and the reason I say it is like I look at board porn. Ron today even posted people were surfing here in Rockaway with four guys like. And we're in the epicenter, and they all dropped in on each other on a waist-high wave, and I just think, fucking idiots, like, so like I'm like always frustrated. Like I know I would try not to do that, and I know many people wouldn't. My concern is always the people who disregard all that stuff, and can they be trusted with it, and how do we police that then?
Sure. And that was the thing. I mean, trust me,
Yeah.
I put up those social media posts with
Yeah.
much trepidation.
Dude,
And
good. No, I want you to know, like, I respect you guys and your opinion and everything. Like, it's a really you make a very good, valid point on a lot of things. So I just want you to know
thanks.
that, like, it's not.
Thank you.
Like I respect it all. Like, and you guys coming together and trying to find an appropriate solution is great. Actually.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we are relying on people to have some common sense and to behave responsibly. And that was, the next day when they lifted the total ban, and they basically amended it and said, okay, the beach remains closed, the parking remains closed, everything remains closed. But if you can access the beach legally without trespassing through someone's private property, and the caveat was, if you were on the beach, you had to be moving. You couldn't post up and sunbathe. You couldn't sit in a chair. You couldn't just hang out. You either, if you're walking, running, biking, swimming, or surfing, then you're fine. But go to the beach, do those activities, and then go home. And so far, the compliance has actually been pretty good. I've been amazed. And the next day, I put up another social media post saying, like, okay, guys, here's our chance to be responsible adults and prove that we can follow the rules and follow the guidelines and do the right thing. And so far, at least from what I've experienced, and I got some buddies that work for Beach Patrol, and I've talked to them, and so far, it's been good.
I'm happy. I'm really glad for you guys on that. That's
Thanks.
great that you guys have been able to.
I am too.
Yeah, no, it's I hope it continues. It's I know I have my concerns, and I know, like, I also think like what you're doing is you're basically limiting people to their zip code, or their community or neighborhood. Like I don't think people should be coming from too far away to come to the beach or something. I think that's kind of what you guys are insinuating a bit too, no?
100%. We told people, like, I actually put up a post that same following day and just said, look, if you have to get in your car to go somewhere to surf, you probably shouldn't be going there.
Yeah, totally.
If you can bike or walk or skate, then that's great. But if you definitely shouldn't be coming from another county.
Yeah.
And it's hard because there's, like Jacksonville and St. Augustine, I know there's people coming down here because our beach is open to surfing.
Oh, jeez.
And it's frustrating. And I surfed yesterday, and I rode my bike down to the inlet. It's, about 6 or 8 blocks for me, and I saw more people that I'd never seen before in 40 years of surfing at the inlet that I was like, where did you come from? And I tried to be respectful, and I didn't want to like blow up at anybody, but I asked a lot of people that I didn't recognize. I was like, hey, just curious, like, where'd you drive from, to surf today? And I had people from Jacksonville, people from St. Augustine, people from Brevard. Even though Brevard's beaches are open to surf, they drove up here because they thought it would be better. And I'm just like, oh, wow, you guys are kind of missing the point, Like this is an opportunity to do the right thing, and keep just kind of stay in your little zone, stay in your neighborhood.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Like that's what you're like. We could have it if you guys just don't blow it, and that's what's so frustrating. Like